Hello and welcome. I want to put together a movie and show you some of the features of Zotero. Zotero has been a great resource for me personally, and I hope that you can benefit from this plugin, this program. First thing that you should do is create an account at Zotero.com. I'm already logged in here. I'm just going to show you some of the features of having an account. Zotero will automatically sync your library online. Here are all the different projects that I've done and various different articles that I have accessed. You can access them through the web right here. Plus, by backing it up here, if something happens to my computer, I won't lose all of this information. It's saved at Zotero.com. Third feature is that I use my desktop here at work, and I have my laptop at home. Well, with my Zotero library being synced across all my devices, both computers, I can add a book to my Zotero library on my work computer, which I'm using right now. And then I can go home and continue writing and researching on my laptop at home, and that resource is already saved in my library. I don't have to go and re-add it or any of that. So go ahead and create an account and then set up the account in your Zotero. You'll need to go into the preferences and go to sync settings and type in your username and password. Make sure that you tell it to sync automatically. As we go through this demonstration, you will see this little arrow twirling, and what that's doing is it's syncing my library to the online database. All right, so that's the first step. Now let's start doing some research. Pretend that you're in the library and you're going through the library and you have various books and you want to add these books to your Zotero library. How do you do it? The easiest way is there are multiple ways, and that's what these buttons all do right here. But this is my favorite. Add item by identifier. You can type in a book's ISBN number, and for most books, Zotero will recognize the ISBN, and then it'll import all of the tags so that you're basically done. This is a great feature. I use this most frequently. Whenever you add a book or any kind of a resource, a journal article or whatever, to your Zotero library, you have to go over and look at the Info tab and make sure that everything is correct. We will have an illustration later where a tag will be wrong, and so I'll explain some more of that later. For right now, let's just add a couple of resources. Okay, so we've added a couple of books, a couple of Ecclesiastes commentaries, so that'll suffice for now. How else can you add books to your library? Well, one of the issues that you run into is books that don't have ISBNs. I think ISBNs were created in the 70s, so anything that predates 1970 is not going to have an ISBN. You can manually come to this little plus button here and then click on Book, and then you can manually type in all of the information. I think there's a better way. I would go to WorldCat, worldcat.org. A Manual for Christian Ethics by Kaiser. You want to check the publication date because you can see there are several different ones. Well, that's a different, I guess those are different books, but there can be several different ones. 1926 is mine, so that is the book that I have in front of me. At WorldCat, you can click on the little folder here, and A Manual for Christian Ethics. There's my book. So we just added that book to our library. So I use WorldCat all the time because there are a lot of older books. Alright, so that's dealing with books and old books that don't have ISBNs. I want to talk to you now about a particular kind of book that you will no doubt run into. And that is a book that has multiple authors. So this book here, 3 Views on the New Testament Use of the Old Testament. Kaiser, Bach, and Enns each write different articles in this book. Zotero, when it pulls the book into into the log here. Notice that it has it just as a book. Well, the problem is if I'm going to quote Kaiser, I don't quote it as a book. I have to quote it as a book section. A book section. So how can we get a book section into Zotero? The easiest way, I think, is to pound in the ISBN like I did, come over here to book, change it to a book section. Yes. You have to insert the titles, then you would just grab one of the titles, the title that you're citing. Notice that these are editors. We need to add an author. Okay, so now we have our author, the editors. The book title. This is just the OCD in me. And there we go. We have that book section. So I think that's the fastest way to add a book section. It's definitely faster than clicking on the little button and then clicking book section and then having to type in every single field. It imports most of the information for you and you can just clean it up. You can also just duplicate a selected item and then change the author and the book title. Oh, also I forgot one thing you do need to insert is the pages. You need to include the page numbers of the article as well. I'm not going to take the time to look that up right now. Okay, so we've dealt with books, we've dealt with old books, we've dealt with book sections. Now let's talk about journal articles. Every theological research paper should have some kind of journal article, multiple journal articles. You're working through Ecclesiastes, and EBSCOhost is a great resource. We'll talk about that later, but you can access some full PDF journal articles right here. These are actually reviews, so they wouldn't be very helpful. And there's an article by Dr. McCabe at Detroit on Ecclesiastes, the message of Ecclesiastes. So we click on the little folder icon, select the article, add it. And there's the message of Ecclesiastes. With this, I keep clicking on stuff. Go back. With this article, it does not have a PDF. A PDF's not available. It does tell you that because we're logged in as our library, it does tell you that our library has it, which is convenient. These are the most common ways to get articles and to begin your research. You begin to compile your library, and then you move over to start writing your paper. And we're going to go ahead and do that at this time. So you're working through and you're doing your research, and then you want to keep track of your research. This is how I typically do it. You can use the notes column as well, but I'll just type it all out here and keep track of it through Microsoft Word, and you can insert citations. We click on the Insert Citation button, and Zotero has several different formats that can be used. What we use is the Chicago Manual of Style full note. We also use footnotes. Do not use endnotes. Select the footnote. There are a couple of different ways that you can search for your resource. I typically just do it right here. Just type in McCabe, select the article, open it up and type in the page number. And there's the article in the footnote in here. These buttons, I'm just going to go through those for you really quick. I mean, you can always just stick your mouse over them and it explains what it is. Zotero Insert Citation, that's the most common one that you're going to use. Next, you have the Edit Citation. Say you're in this one and you're like, oh stink, that's the wrong page number. I need to change that. So you can open it up and change the page number. Also, you could be like, oh, you know what? I found somebody else who says a similar thing. Bartholomew says basically the same idea. Well, you can go ahead and select Bartholomew, stick his page number in there, and then it puts both of them in. So that's really, really handy. I use those two buttons all the time. The next button is the bibliographical management. That's where you insert your bibliography. So at the end of your paper, it will go ahead and put your articles in there, your resources in there. So your bibliography insertion button and then your bibliography editing button. This button I use a lot, and that's the refresh button. There are a couple of instances where the refresh button will be used. First, if you're moving your paper around, moving sections of your paper around, so for example, I'm going to move footnote 5 to footnote 4, make it footnote 4, and you can see down here now in the footnotes I have McCabe back to back. That's incorrect. The second one should be an IBID just with the page number change. So we need to refresh, and the refresh button then fixes it. So at the end of every paper, when I'm completely done, I'll usually go down to my footnotes, Control A, select them all, and refresh. Refresh the whole thing. Make sure everything's all nice and in order. The second time when you're going to use the refresh button is if you're going through an article and you're like, the article has the wrong name. It's supposed to be just Message of Ecclesiastes, not the Message of Ecclesiastes, or something like that. So you go back to your Zotero library. Do not change it here. That's a no-no. You need to change it in your Zotero library. So you go back to your library and find your article. Change the title here. Then go back to your paper and refresh. And now it updates. So those are two instances when you're going to use the refresh button. So really big point here, don't change the actual footnote here. If you find an error, go back to your Zotero tags and change the tags, then refresh it and it'll fix it automatically. The last two buttons are just preferences and remove the codes. I've never used either of those. That's basically it. That's an introduction to Zotero. I hope it's helpful for you. If you have any questions, then let me know.